Sophia and Kalle and the rest. Let's go. Hey, Jyrki, thanks for joining us. You hear us?
Yes, but I have difficulties, I must admit.
Okay, so let's and let me know about your timetable also, if possible. But we need to, before we go into you, we need to go do some preparation, okay, to get into the legal aspect. So I'll start with Anna, who is here with me. She's an artist, and like Ida was saying, you're a co-founder also of Robin Hood, and artist, activist, and we've been. This is, I don't know, the fifth or fourth organizational experiment we've been doing together, which has been really a pleasure. And I'm, in fact, quite excited to have the opening session about Robin Hood Cooperative. It has a really great history. When we look at it, I mean, it was established in 2012, and we can, in a sense, say that it was one of the first original experiments in decentralizing finance. Anna, could you tell us a little bit about the background and the original idea of why did we establish Robin Hood?
Yeah, I think so. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. So yeah, like Akseli said, we established the cooperative in 2012, but I would say that the 2 years before that we were already working towards its emergence in the sense that we were developing a series of experiments, first in the context of the artists and economists collective called Molecular Organization, and then within the research unit at Aalto University called Future Art Base. And those were a series of experiments that were, of course, situating in the economic and political context of that post-crisis in the austerity atmosphere in Europe, particularly in the south, where I come from too. And we were looking at how heterogeneity and how heterogeneous forces and points of view can cooperate, and what can we do together in this context, relating to the production of subjectivity, and also the results it had in terms of precarity both in the sense of like labor relations, but also in terms of mental landscapes and how were people relating, and how sustainable or unsustainable were the relations. So we thought that we could work on that around money and around finance. We were lucky that we had Sakari Jyrki with a trading algorithm that he was developing for a long time, and we could operate that trading algorithm. And so we thought that, okay, we're going to create an organization and explore its potentiality. And then came the co-op.
One question. So if I reformulate the question a little bit. So why? So this is the landscape. There was the financial crisis of 2007 and 8, the precarity in Europe, especially in South, like you said, in Greece and Portugal. And then 2012 we established it. But why finance? Why did we go there?
Well, we were looking at the financialization of economy and the material production and labor, and all the work you were doing, and that I got very interested at on the level of the biopolitics and the semio-capitalism, and this production that is on the level of the affections and the communications, and that is it's yes, sure, post-Fordist, and it's past the era of producing goods, and that takes over. And for me, it felt that not so much right now, but back then it felt that it was intoxicating everything. That was my very experience, and that I had no say to it. I had no control. And therefore, we realized that we needed a different relation to finance as something that is expressive and creative, and that I can have a say on it. So it was a form of building our own economy, sure.
Yeah, so that's right. So we kind of, the background analysis, we wrote and translated a lot of books also, but the background analysis pointed out that we are all part of this financialization of economy. There's no outsiders, in a sense, no financial virgins, in a sense, and that so that we need to get involved with this too. Then also that kind of fine, but we don't, for some reason, it is just so that we don't have access to the operating system of this finance, so we are simply at its mercy, but at the same time we know that money is not something bad in itself, but on the other hand, it would be very good to get involved in the flows of cash and risk and start to manage and access them. It's a good thing, and not to something to shy away from. And we understood that it's not the sphere of labor and work through which you can do it, that we need to access the operating system of finance.
Yes, and therefore this organization, which there were good practical reasons why to go for a co-op, like you can have a lower initial starting fund, and you can run it with low costs, and this has to do also with the being able to have a low threshold of access. So the idea was that we could offer asset management basically to anyone with not anyone, that would be unfair to say, but basically with an amount of 60 euro you could have your money being managed and being at the stock exchange in the US. So that was the first step on decentralization, and we didn't have the tools we have now, and we recognized that it was there is still somehow a central entity and a body and a particular governance, but it was the lowest threshold we could get at the time, I guess, and yeah, as horizontal as it could take, one member, one vote. So the very basics for doing it.
Let's go to I want to spend a little bit more time here in the finance, and then let's go to the organizational side. The why cooperative? Why did we choose the cooperative as the organizational form? But then, like, in fact, what the MoneyLab title refers to is also the playground, or the playground for post-capitalism, and that was important part of the Robin Hood thinking too back then, that we want to profanate finance, we want to just take these sacred things that only the priests of finance can talk about and understand, and just grab it and start playing with it. I think it was a very important, like, aesthetic, and important, like, a political strategy too, that we just go for it, grab it and start playing with it. What do you think of that?
I agree, and I agree. Remember, and we did it, and there were risks. And I remember the first year we would be talking to people and getting people involved, and the normal reaction was, "This is too strange. Maybe it's not doable." But we thought we wanted to do it, and we knew somehow that it would be a continuous experiment that had to change and adapt and evolve through time. And that was the point, that we had this idea of creating a monster that is somehow an assemblage of a legal entity and a certain legal framework. And then Jyrki will be talking about the Finnish cooperative law. But we had this, it was like very expressive, almost like making a sculpture with different elements that maybe couldn't.
Yeah.
So they weren't expected to be together so often. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. And kind of and it was expressive, and in that sense, really, at least I remember feeling it kind of that it was a expressive. It was a field of creation, and what was important. Also, what we understood as in an like an experiential side was that the power that we actually have, the power and imagination to re-engineer finance, these flows of risk, flows of sharing the risks and the upside, like opening up the opportunities and using our collective collectiveness to arbitrage an opportunity. And I do remember that when people got it, you saw it in their eyes that we do have the power and imagination to do it. So that was yes, about the finance. But then the other question is the organizational side related to there, which is that I think why we can say that it was kind of a decentralized finance already back then. Our attempt there was that we brought the question of governance to the fore as a value proposition, and that we chose the cooperative as the form of organization was at the center. So why was that? Do you remember? Why did we choose the cooperative?
Well, we were thinking on tools for cooperation, and definitely it's an historical one. There were problems there, but we managed to, I guess, fit to the model. I don't quite know why we chose it. I think this idea of playing with cooperation tools, so it would be quite a good place to start.
It was important part that we well, of course, there's a proud history of the cooperative form in Nordic countries, and back then in the early 2000s there was this movement of new forms of cooperatives coming along, and we thought that it's the best, most democratic organizational form of governance that we have available, so that we can people who join the cooperative, they get to it's not according to the amount of capital, but everyone has a vote and is equal in that sense in the governance. So that was important. But then within a year, we also realized that there are some serious problems in the cooperative form.
Yeah, but maybe before we talk about that, we could talk about a little bit about the purpose and then the Robin Hood twist and what we did with this governance model. So, for the ones who haven't heard about it, we then had this at Parasite, and we were like we used to say, another way to occupy Wall Street. I don't know if Luca or Bifo came up with that slogan, but so we were trading in the Wall Street, and the idea
when we were
was
following the algorithm was following the major moves of the big whales in the American stock exchanges.
Yeah, and imitating what these actors do, the algorithm would help deciding, and we would do the same. And so we had quite good performance for some time. And the idea was that we would then use the profits made to fund commons-based projects and also directly to members. And so this was a way of first hacking the intelligence, hacking the intelligence and the markets, and then deviate the resources into maybe counter-movement initiatives. So I think this fits here well for the topic of MoneyLab 9. And yeah, so where were you going?
Yeah, then the cooperative form that we chose, within a year or so, we understood that it was in fact an organizational form which belonged to the past century.
Yeah, I guess first of all it was slow, so all the bureaucratic premises of it, for example, very, very concrete example, a member to exit the cooperative and get his money back would wait, best case scenario, 6 months. Worst case scenario, 18 months to get the money to his account, to his pocket. So that was one of the first, I think, at least for me, it was one of the first realizations that this is not enough. Other problems is that there is a central decision-making body. There is a board. There is a management team. And then we have the general meetings of the cooperative, which is the main decision body that should inform whatever happens. But all this was and it still is often a lot of work and a lot of energy for things that soon after we realized could maybe be socialized in a different way, and yeah.
Yeah, so that's right. There was a hidden centralization. It was still like too one-dimensional what we were able to do, and that's why we then turned in around 2013 into the promise of blockchain and what kind of an organizational substrate we could find from there.
Yes, and so we started to research and develop on the blockchain technologies, and I think it's around 2015, a couple of years after that, we started the first implementations and use cases, and that's around the time also that we move a good part of our operations to the US, and we start using the name of Robinhood Services, and from there the spin-off to Economic Space Agency. But yeah, about that couple of years we were already couple of years after we were trying to develop a shares management and membership system for the co-op on the blockchain. And I think when we say blockchain, it started a lot from really the accountant and the ledgers and to have all these management of the cooperative and of its books and transactions in a more contemporary way than that of all the procedures that we had to do and still do with the cooperative form.
Yeah, so it was kind of especially after the Ethereum white paper became evident that actually it would allow us to start. It's a different kind of an organizational substrate which will allow us to keep like producing equity options assemblage to the members, but in a way that would correspond to our subjectivity in a different way. So then we went to that direction, but then now I wanted to start bringing Jyrki to the question. Is we also realized that is not enough, and we do need the legal brick and mortar interface to this information realm. And again, from that point of view, point in time, the Finnish cooperative law started to sound as a something very, very interesting for us. Do you want to say something about this?
No, let's bring Jyrki on. Yeah.
So we, yes. So and still at the moment the on-ramps between the legacy financial world and the new informational realm, like the interface between them is it's hard to solve. Then there have been some experiments now in US in that they have formulated like limited liability companies on blockchain, but when we kind of returned back to the new Finnish cooperative law and understood that it in fact enables, it's unique in the world in the sense that it's so flexible that we can create different kinds of governances, and it allows us to actually not only issue tokens but issue organization and its governances, and it's like made for almost for this kind of organization, issuing them. And we've been started to work with Jyrki, who is actually the guy who wrote the Finnish new cooperative law. Isn't that right, Jyrki? Or drafted it? Are you there? Now he is mute, I see.
I am here.
Okay.
Okay, did you hear my question?
I'm still following. I was actually, and I'm also listening to.
Great.
So what I had in mind is if you were asking me what is the speciality of like the Finnish cooperative law.
Yes.
So one might say that actually our Cooperatives Act is more flexible than any other corporate legislation in Europe. So it's like our cooperative law is like a mixture of cooperative principles and limited liability principles. We have in the beginning, like the default rules in Cooperatives Act are in line with the old cooperative principles, but it's possible to modify and those principles with or towards the limited liability company principles, even up to like companies which are in the regulated market, for example, the stock exchange company, if you want to. And I think that what has been in mind when we drafted the existing Cooperatives Act was that it, in a way, like fits the different phases of an enterprise.
Right.
You can have, when it comes to capital structures or corporate governance structures, you can have like the old-fashioned investors. But on top of that, you can have the entrepreneur shareholders, or the profit-sharing worker, subcontractor, or how do you want to call them, participants.
Right.
And I think that the only limit still existing in the Cooperatives Act is that when it comes to voting rights, if you want to give somebody a voting right, the voting difference between two separate investors can be only 1 to 20. But at the same time, you can also distribute like completely non-voting shares. And when it comes to non-voting shares, you can allow them to have in the article like a veto right or something to certain decisions which are named in the article. So actually, if you're a lawyer and able to write the articles in a way that fits for the enterprise, you can also have like a wider scale of voting right differences that is like basically allowed in the act.
Yeah. So I think that's like mind blowing almost, because it's, when you think about it, it is like it's like a tool set to express different governances. So like you were saying, you can have, if you have this tool set, then you can express a limited liability form of corporation. You can have express the more classical cooperative form of like sharing the risk and upside, or some kind of a hybrid of those, for instance. And
what may I have something to add, is that what is, I think, really important, if you compare this to the standard like limited liability company legislation in Europe, one difference is that none of us can predict for sure what's going to happen in the future. So there's going to be times when we have to change the rules. We have to change the articles.
yes.
And in a way, it is easier, according to the Cooperatives Act, than if compared to what is the standard method changing the rules according to Limited Liability Companies Act. And the reason is that I think that the limited liability company rules date back to time when it was difficult to have like an online conversation like this with your investors. So due to that, it is very common that you need to have all the shareholders to accept, every single shareholder to accept certain amendments. But according to our Cooperatives Act, most of those cases can be handled through like a meeting in a way. It's a special majority, but anyway, a majority is sufficient. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know how familiar you are what is going on in the crypto space and decentralized finance space right now, but what has been realized there is really that that is in fact like the value creation layer right now, when the protocols are open source and they can be just copied and forked very easily, actually the competitive advantage or the value creation layer is about the way that you belong to a project, the way that you share the governance, the way that you participate in the governance, the way you open the new opportunities, the way how you share the upside of that project, and how that is designed. That is the actual value creation layer, or the value offer. So it's the governance and governance tokens which have become super valuable right now in the crypto space. So what you are saying is that, or what we are thinking is that basically the Finnish cooperative law enables us or offers us like a platform, or a legal framework to actually express different governances in a way that it's legally compliant. And that's like huge. So what we've been thinking is that well, first of all, we would like Finland to become one of the key places where these kind of on-chain organizations are issued, and I think it's very interesting. For instance, like in a comparison, we have a foundation in Switzerland with the Economic Space Agency. We've set up like our legal infrastructure framework there, and it has cost us like 150,000 to set it up and run it, and it's huge. And we are not the only one. There are like hundreds of blockchain enterprises set up in Zug in Switzerland, and it's a very good business for them. But something like this, we could easily like do this plugging into the Finnish legal system, and I guarantee you that it would be very interesting worldwide to have something like this. What do you think about that?
I'm happy to hear what you said.
Yes. So then I have one more question, kind of why I think that the cooperative law is very interesting, because it also allows us to represent the shares as tokens, and it allows these shares to have an aftermarket, right? And if that's possible, like it looks that it is, it would be a big breakthrough in the way that we can actually issue the organizations and tokens in the crypto world in a way that they can be offered not only to accredited investors like in the US model, but also to everybody who wants to join an organization, this cooperative organization.
So to put it in short, is that it depends on the articles of a Finnish cooperative how easily the shares, different kinds of shares, are transferable. But it's possible to have all kinds of limitations, but on the other hand, it's possible to have them freely transferable so that they can be listed, for example, even in any regulated market.
Right. Yeah. So you're saying that it is actually the articles, or that the cooperative, the framework is so flexible that it is about expressing the articles and how you want to have it done.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly like that. And in a way also the methods you can write the articles are such that actually all the investors, third parties, can understand and trust the arrangements.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I think this is a huge deal, and we in fact have one new test cooperative which we've passed through the regulators, and it has checked all the parts, and we are ready to issue it now very soon. And that's part of why we are also working today on the second phase concept of Robinhood. Hey,
can I add one more comment? Is that you know the European Cooperative Forum?
Yes.
Have you heard of it?
Yes.
So I took part in the negotiations on behalf of Finland, and I think I was the only company law lawyer in that working group.
Really?
The others were representative, like the local tax authorities, agriculture ministries, culture, or whatever ministries. And the reason for this is that in most of the European countries, cooperatives can have like certain tax benefits if compared to other enterprises.
Right.
But the price they have to pay in legislation is that there are a lot of limitations in the freedom of contract. But we don't have that system. So therefore, the cooperatives law, the act is like more freedom of contract friendly than the limited liability companies act.
Exactly. Yeah, that sums it, in fact, really, really well. And and the Finnish cooperative law also has some benefits, like the bonus.
Sorry,
the Finnish cooperative law also has there are some benefits, like the bonus is still there.
Yes, that is like basically. If I tell you the history, is that when it comes to our enterprise tax law, it's like the elinkeinoverolaki.
Right.
So there's a special rules that if you have like a consumer customers, this bonus is tax free for them. But if you are like a consumer member, that is working for you. That is working for you when if you're a member of a Hock-Elanto or any
right.
day-to-day goods business or a cooperative bank, that works for you. But if you are like an entrepreneur member of like an entrepreneurs cooperative, it is not applied as I've understood.
You're right. But for cooperative bank, it is. So you can basically, if I've understood it correctly, you can pay bonuses to the users of the protocol or the bank, and kind of then reduce those bonuses from your revenue.
It works
taxes.
like that.
Yeah.
It's like if I have an example from the retail day-to-day goods business, like this Hock-Elanto. If I buy there like for 10,000 euros a year, they give me a 5% bonus. Right. Which deducts their profit too, so that they don't have to pay any tax on that. And I don't have to pay tax. Exactly. That's certainly a benefit. Hey, now I'm getting a signal that the time is we're running towards the end of the time, and let's take some questions about this. I know Pekko is thinking about something. No.
That wasn't the most smooth. Okay, I'll fairly self-evident transfer, but I'll take it. I think one of the things we've seen when we looked at the foundation game in Switzerland is that quite quickly this field of crypto, which was supposed to be the place for the small player. No sound.
Go ahead. No, he had to go. He has to go.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, the crypto was supposed to be this field for the small player. Like, if you look at the foundation game in Switzerland and how it's organizing itself, it's quickly becoming this very similar to any organizational game, like you're not allowed to enter if you don't have $100,000 plus sums. You're not allowed to have a bank account unless you put like 50,000 on front, and so on. Like it's
it took us 2 years to open a bank account.
It's quite the key thing. It's quite quickly turned into something that is outside of the normal people. And what the possibility, I think, in the Finnish co-op law is potentially at least have some resistance to that, given that partly this foundation game comes from the limitations and the legal acceptances being kind of more complicated. So given that organization seems to be the best way to get to a financial basis, to build a platform of assets, like I see that the co-op could be a platform where you have a pathway, you have a bridge that comes from somebody who does not have much assets, but can get to a point where their operation can be economized. So for me, that's something to highlight from the possibility of co-ops to come.
Excellent point, thanks.
Who else? Any more questions, comments?
Anyway, Anna, thanks. That was.
Thank you.
Questions from are there any questions in the chat? No.
What's the status of your co-op? Are you? What is the current status of your co-op? Like, are you? You said you have a test thing going on, or like?
Yeah, we are on in the blockchain with limited features, but we are on, and our articles are 8 years old. So part of the work that we are doing today is to prepare the change of the articles and use the openings of the new cooperative law so that we can continue playing and we can continue expressing with these new forms of governance and how to use the possibilities of the smart contracts and these new technologies with our organization. So that's where we are.
Kalle, can I share this screen? Can you open it?
Yeah, does that answer? Is that what?
Yeah, so you are in the process of setting it
Yeah.
up. Okay.
So
Can you share some?
In a few weeks.
Can you share some nerdy details, like something like some?
I'm trying to show you the co-op is on blockchain. It's the world's first cooperative on blockchain, and we are on the Ethereum mainnet. I'm going to show you if I get to share the screen.
What is that timeline?
There's also, we got one cooperative through, a crypto cooperative through the acceptance of the Finnish law, and we can of course share the legal phrasings we used. We can, because one, like with law, if something goes through, it's very likely to go through again, because otherwise they're challenging their own validity and authority. So it's a kind of like a passageway to get a crypto-based organization through.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm interested, like I'm part of Pixelake and we are renewing our structure or trying all the time. So I would like, how can I fork that idea
Perfectly,
and promote it? And because we are this association, this limit, how do you call it? RU, which creates a lot of problems for our model and so on. So I mean, this would be something exciting to at least explore. So how can I kind of fork that concept into our context?
No, that's great, of course, because not doing it just for our own sake, but of course to figure out what models can there be for different organizations and hopefully have opportunity to help developing them. Yeah.
Yes, let's talk about it. And like I mean, with Jyrki, it's been great. He's very excited about the possibilities for law and kind of for what to help us use it as creatively as possible. He would like to see that too.
Shall I talk a bit about the technical?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the moment. Right. Okay.
To the mic.
Hi. You hear that? Yeah. So, as a matter of fact, I'm actually at that very moment registering our existing members on our I associate them with our smart contract, meaning I register them on the blockchain. So I'm literally doing it right now because we are now in that state. However, there's a big. I think that we should mention that when you ask what the state is right now, there's two things that from our core perspective we want to do on the blockchain, which is we want to create an aftermarket for the shares that the member has in our corp in order to facilitate exchange between the members of those shares. Of course, inside the legal framework of the Finnish corp law. However, what we, I think, also want to reach eventually is a representation of our organizational structure on the blockchain, which means that we can use the smart contract tool to mirror things like decision processes like general meetings, elections for boards, decisions about projects to be supported, changes of articles of constitution, etc., etc. Now, we are not there yet. And that's a very big kind of gotcha for me personally, because whenever we talk about blockchain and say digital tools in general, we have to consider the fundamental problem of where are the interfaces between the real world, and that real world in that sense means, like, for example, the Finnish registry for the OUs and all the documentation and the blockchain. Now, this so-called oracle problem of the blockchains is not solved yet, and this is a fundamental discussion to be had, and we would be very happy, I personally would be very happy to discuss these kind of issues. I'm sorry. I would be very happy to discuss these kind of aspects of it, because yes, as I said, this is yet unsolved. What is solved is representing things like shares, rather simple, straightforward concepts on the blockchain, as these are just numbers. Maybe that helps get some insight.
So I think we need to wrap up and
Sure.
thank
Let's
everybody